Dr. Springer, I'm going to just turn it over to you because I have a feeling that you're the one who has the wisdom here.
Oh, thank you. I would be remiss to not acknowledge the wisdom that sits with all of you. And I'm so grateful to be able to spend time and share a little bit about our work. My name is Alana Springer. I too am from California and struggle with the cold and rain, just like this dog you're talking about, Joan. And I did go to grad school for a long time. I have a lot of experience in community-based conservation and kind of culturally inclusive conservation, but didn't want to stay in academia. It's a little bit removed from the real world in my experience. So sought work that was a little bit more hands-on and started with the district almost 2 years ago. And it's been fantastic. And Kira, do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Yeah, hi, I'm Kira McClure, and Alana mentioned that I started with the district back in December. I have a background in education and environmental studies. I went to school for environmental studies and then taught for a year or so. So getting to be an environmental educator with the conservation district is really just the best of both worlds right now. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. And we put together a little presentation that I'll share now because we want to show you pictures of children looking cute and taking care of the environment. Can everybody see what I just shared? Awesome, cool.
Yeah.
So much like we were just saying, passing the torch is really important. So the title of our presentation is Cultivating the Next Generation of Environmental Stewards. This is truly what we try to do with all of our programming. And we work with students in various ways from preschool through high school. We also do a lot of family embedded learning because we just want everyone to cultivate the environment and feel and know that there's ways that they can do that every day, no matter where they are, where they live. You don't need to live out in the country. If you are in an apartment in Everett like I am, I can also be caring for the environment. So we're gonna do a little through the ages, starting with preschool, going through high school and talking about our different programs. But first, whenever we do a presentation, we do share really briefly about the role of a conservation district. Not everyone is familiar, but I know we've worked with the League of Women Voters in the past, so you might already know a bit about us. We work in Snohomish County and Camano Island, and we work with residents, organizations, nonprofits, businesses, anyone in our jurisdiction to try to take care of the natural resources around them. So our agriculture team does a lot of pasture, weed, manure, mud management with hobby farms or commercial farms. We have a community conservation team that installs a number of green stormwater infrastructure projects like rain gardens or bioswales. There's some really big bioswales that we've done in Edmonds in particular. And we have a habitat team that does a lot of riparian restoration. They do forestry management plans. They help people install working buffers on their properties. And a bunch of our teams contribute to agricultural resilience and urban resilience because caring for a garden is also caring for the environment. And then there's our outreach and education team, which Kira and I are on, and we engage students through adults in hands-on learning, education, and really just trying to empower people to take the actions that they can to protect our resources. So for preschool students, we have what is right now my favorite program. We have a farm to school grant where we're working with 4 ECAP sites. Those are early childhood education and assistance program sites in Snohomish County. They're basically preschools for underserved families where they offer a lot of other social and other services for the family, not just the student. And through this farm to school program, we're through preschoolers trying to encourage families to eat local, eat nutritious food, get out into nature or garden in your home, whatever is accessible. Because I think that caring for the environment, it's a reciprocal process. We care for the environment or our garden, and then it nourishes us. So really trying to instill that holistic approach to environmentalism. And with this program, we developed some lessons. They can be used in a garden or in the classroom, depending on what's available to teachers. Just teaching preschoolers about different gardening and environmental topics. We also did some teacher training so that teachers would feel comfortable implementing these lessons in a garden. It can feel scary to take little ones outside, especially when you don't know who's allergic to bees, who's allergic to this. So we just want to empower teachers to feel comfortable. We did some family-friendly cooking demonstrations where we had up to 60 people. So that's families, siblings, and then the preschool students learning about produce, helping us chop up tomatoes for pasta salad or squash for soup. And then we ate together, which was just a really great way to make community with these schools. We're trying to take them on field trips. The logistics are proving challenging, so we might bring the farm to the classroom with some farm educators visiting. And Kira has been really helpful putting together some cookbooks and educational packets so that families can kind of carry on this programming even when our grant ends or when we don't have the availability, every day. And so then they can be self-sustaining and start gardens at home and keep that nutrition and like healthy eating part of their family culture. And we're also trying to connect local farmers with preschool sites so that preschool administrators can source locally grown produce for their school menus, and then they can support local farmers. So we're really just trying to have healthy kids and healthy agriculture in Snohomish County. I have a few photos. On the left is a collaborator from WSU Snap Ed getting some chopped up zucchini from a student who you can see is very small and being held up by his mom. And we made some really great like minestrone style soup. And this is the event where we had about 60 people. You can see all those cups. We were ready to break bread with a lot of people that night, which was awesome. In the middle, we had a lesson about worms. We were learning about how good worms are for the soil and how healthy soil creates healthy plants. Worms do not have eyes. That's why there's no eyeballs on that little worm. And then on the far right, we were learning about bees and pollinators, and students made these little bee motels so that solitary bees and other pollinators, they can crawl into each of those little paper tubes inside the toilet paper roll and find a nice cozy place to overwinter. And then the students tried to make a little extra cover for them by putting it under some leaves that they sourced. So just a handful of the activities that we're doing with these little ones. For elementary age students, we have Watershed Week. A big focus at the district is conserving stormwater and surface water. So we have a week-long program where we talk about watershed dynamics with students. We talk about the water cycle, sources of pollution, how that pollution affects salmon and macroinvertebrates, water bugs, that are important for our local aquatic ecosystems. And we also, of course, talk about stormwater conservation. And we end every lesson with a hands-on thing that is accessible for students to do to protect stormwater. So it might be picking up pet waste. It might be starting, working on an organic garden in your backyard if you have a garden. It might be talking to your parents about stormwater issues and, encouraging your parents to use a car wash and not wash your car next to a storm drain. So we try to give them things that are accessible so that they feel good and they can have an impact. And Kira, I'll pass it over to you for Wheat Week. That's what she does all day, every day.
I was going to say, this is where the main focus of my last couple months has been our Wheat Week program, which is a week-long science and agriculture program that we teach in 4th and 5th grade classrooms throughout Snohomish County. I love that this program offers a really focused lens through which we can discuss and introduce kind of a variety of topics that are agricultural, environmental, and scientific, while we are promoting a wide variety of topics such as connectedness to food and plant life cycles, learning about natural resources and conservation, as well as the water cycle and soil health. And it really gives students a wide overview of the complexity of farming and the many issues that farmers are dealing with, especially in relation to natural resources and the environment. So lots of different things that we cover during the week, including, of course, wheat every day. We talk about wheat during Wheat Week, as well as we play some little water cycle games, talk about soil health, and really explore what different types of soils feel like and look like and how they can relate to good growing conditions, as well as what soil health means and how we can take care of and conserve soil. We also get into DNA, and this is really where I think this is our most fun hands-on activity throughout the week, which is we do a little DNA extraction experiment with wheat germ. And the students get to really feel like they're doing science because they are doing science. And that really, I think, is the most impactful thing about this program, is that it's bringing very hands-on science into the classroom in a way that is really exciting and fun for students. And I'll often hear from teachers that they are struggling to bring hands-on fun science into their classrooms due to partially time constraints, partially material constraints, as well as just dealing with a set curriculum. So being able to come into their classroom and offer those students something that's going to get them excited about science and excited about farming, but also interested and curious about environmental issues, is something that I just absolutely love about this program, and it feels very valuable. I included this little quote in here because a few weeks ago I was at a school and I was outside the classroom about to go in, and a student asked me like, "Oh, are you here for that science program?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then he turned to his friend, and he didn't say this to me, but he said, "Oh, I hate science." And this student throughout the week got a little more excited and a little more involved, and he was showing so much leadership throughout the week. And at the end of the week, he and a couple other students were like almost begging, "Can we just have Wheat Week all year?" And that's a sentiment that I hear almost weekly. So I know that it's getting them really excited about all of these different topics that we're bringing into the classroom. And gets them kind of thinking about different ways in which different ways in which we can conserve water and conserve soil health. And these are a couple pictures, thank you, Alana, of a few of the activities we do. On the left, you'll see a little test tube, and we've got some wheat germ, as well as some water, dish soap, and alcohol, rubbing alcohol, that we use to extract that DNA from the wheat germ. And at the end of it, you can actually see the DNA. It's kind of a cloudy white substance that separates out from the rest of it. And they get really excited when they've realized that they have gone through this process and been able to actually extract real DNA in their own classroom. And on the right is an activity we do on the very last day of Wheat Week. We thresh a piece of wheat each. So the kernels fall out, and they get to either take those kernels home and plant them. They can snack on them if they want. Planting wheat, unfortunately, we don't have a picture, but planting wheat in terrariums is maybe the highlight of the week. These students get to watch their wheat grow throughout the week, and we observe it, and then they get to take it home at the end of the week. And probably the most closely listened to I am throughout the week is when I'm telling them how to take care of their wheat at home. And you can see that they are really excited to take care of this plant that is now theirs and see if they can grow it into a full wheat plant. Alana, I think I'll pass it back to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Kira. So for elementary and middle school students, we also do field trips. We think it's incredibly important to get students out into nature, wherever that may be. Sometimes we do walking field trips on campus if schools don't have the resources for bus transportation. When we can, we love to take them out into especially river zones, since so much of what we teach about has to do with water quality. So we'll take them to local parks when we can, where there's some sort of riparian habitat. We explore these environments. We learn about and identify native plants or animals that we observe or that we see with tracks or scat. We also will test water quality directly from the river, stream, or lake where we're at, so they can really see that, this river is impacted by pollution or not, or, salmon would love to be here, or maybe they wouldn't. And we also do the odd field trip where we will have students help us plant native species in bioswales or rain gardens or out in restoration areas. so that they can come back hopefully in 5 or 10 years and see this little plant that they installed is now like 40 or 50 feet tall. And in this photo, our education coordinator, Nathan, he has a little safari hat on. He's holding a turbidity tube and he's working with these 5th graders from Eagle Creek Elementary in Arlington. And they're at River Meadows Park and they just got a sample from the river behind them and they're testing the water quality to see if it would be suitable salmon habitat. And they did a really great job. It was so fun.
So yesterday we got to do a wonderful field trip in Lake Stevens with a class of 5th graders, and we met up with Taylor, who works for the city of Lake Stevens, who helped us plant some native trees along the stream side to help create a better environment for salmon and to protect water quality around Lake Stevens. It was really cool to be able to see these kids get really excited about the process of planting these trees and to hear them kind of talking to each other and thinking about how these will impact the stream growth or the stream water quality over time as the trees grow. We got to do a couple of other things yesterday as well. We did some water quality testing from the water of Lake Stevens, and we got to see a little Enviroscape demonstration and learn about how pollution can impact watersheds. So the culmination of some hands-on activities as well as a planting of native species was just an all-around, honestly, fantastic field trip, and I think it was very obvious that how much the kids were enjoying themselves.
Yeah, it was super fun. And the weather was phenomenal yesterday. And then I have a few photos here from a student group that came to our plant sale, which we had our prep week last week, and then people picked up orders this past weekend. And these students helped us put together some tags for plants on the left, and then install other tags. This is Pacific rhododendron on the right that they're labeling, so that people that ordered the plant know what it is and know a bit about how to grow it. And they also helped us assemble plant sale orders. And so through all these processes, they're handling native plants, learning about them, developing a personal relationship with them, and then contributing to our plant sale effort to get native plants out into the community and eventually into the ground. And this was a really awesome kind of co-op homeschool group based out of the Sky Valley, like Sultan area. And I just love working with homeschool students because they are very independent thinkers and they just really push me to present things in novel ways. So I enjoyed working with this group. For middle schoolers, we have 2 kind of high impact, intense lessons about water quality. We will get a water sample from the water body closest to their school, and we will test it using chemical tests, where we will test temperature, pH, dissolved oxygen, phosphates, and turbidity. And again, we use those parameters to work with students and infer whether this would be successful salmon habitat, and then try to identify some pollution sources that may be contributing to the numbers that we find in our testing. We will also get another sample where we're getting macroinvertebrates or bugs out of different streams, and we'll do a survey of those bugs, and you can separate them into pollution intolerant, tolerant, or semi-tolerant species. And then that gives you also insight into water quality. If there's only pollution tolerant bugs, you know that the stream is not doing very well. If you see a lot of our native pollution intolerant bugs, then we know the stream is in a healthy condition. So showing them a couple different ways that you can assess water quality, whether you have these chemical tests and like some more intensive equipment versus you can have a guidebook about macroinvertebrates and still have a really rigorous assessment. For high school students, we support something called Envirothon, which is a high school environmental science competition. We have our Northwest Regional Competition next Tuesday at the Brightwater Center in Woodinville. So we've gotten teams from King County, Snohomish County, Whatcom, and Skagit counties, and they're going to compete, go head to head, and they do some written and practical tests in 4 main areas: wildlife, aquatics, soils, and forestry. And then every year we have a rotating special topic where they do an oral presentation. This year's special topic is renewable energy for a sustainable future. So they're preparing a presentation about the fictional town of Bluebell in Skagit County and talking about the pros and cons of different renewable energy sources for this fictitious scenario that we made up. And the teams that place first, second, and third on Tuesday will go on to the state competition, which is going to be in Walla Walla this year. And then the top team from there will go on to the national competition in New York. And teams that perform well at the national competition are eligible for a number of scholarships and other really great opportunities for them. And throughout, from the regional to the state to the national competition, we have them interacting with conservation professionals through panels, through kind of study groups and study opportunities, workshops. So the goal of Envirothon is to teach them about the environment and how to engage in conservation, but also to do career connected learning so that they meet professionals and they feel like a career in conservation is accessible, is exciting, and they may want to pursue it after graduation, whether they go to college or they want to start working right away. We want to give them options in conservation no matter where they want to go after this. So that's really cool to see them talking with professionals and learning a lot of really important hands-on skills that can inspire them to pursue careers in this field later. And I have a few pictures here on the left. We have students at our regional competition a few years ago at the aquatics table. So they have some water samples. They're answering some practical water quality testing questions and also identifying macroinvertebrates and other species and making inferences about water quality. On the right, we have students at the forestry table. You can see they're looking at some tree ring samples. And then these two students at the front are looking up to try to estimate the height of a tree. They're looking at a tree and determining the species and the health of the tree. So a lot of really hands-on things happening at this competition. And it's very fun to see them get into the spirit of it. Another program I wanted to touch on is the YES program, which we piloted last summer. This summer, our school partner had some issues, so we're not doing it in 2024, but we'll pick it up next year. The YES program is a really awesome kind of career training program that we do in collaboration with local school districts and the Pacific Education Institute. And it's a 5-week course. Students spend 3 out of every 5 days of the week out in the field, learning hands-on skills like managing invasive species, planting native plants. They do water quality testing. They're learning scientific sketching. They are just doing all kinds of awesome stuff. They built basically a fake beaver dam to help encourage beavers to create more dams in up near Arlington. They did all kinds of really awesome stuff. And the course culminates with a capstone project where they prepare a restoration plan for a study plot that they were working on at Valley View Middle School. So they started to restore the plot by pulling invasive species and surveying the native species that were present. But over the summer is not a great time to actually install native plants. So they left that planting plan for student volunteers in the fall. And then later, an additional cohort of students was able to carry out the rest of their restoration plan. And again, almost every day that they're in the field, students are working with professionals from Snohomish Conservation District, from the Department of Natural Resources, from the Pacific Education Institute, all these different places to learn about the many different conservation careers available to them. And they get a certificate at the end saying they've been introduced to this whole suite of environmental skills and knowledge. And we hope that that will help them, along with letters of rec, which I'd happily write if they asked, will help them get into different conservation careers after high school graduation. And I pulled a few slides from a different presentation, so apologies, the formatting is different, but this is some of their class time at school. They were at the Valley View Middle School campus. They're taking a first aid course on the left. You can see someone has the fake bandages on their head. In the middle, they're looking through leaf litter and identifying different bugs and other things happening in the leaf litter. On the right, they collected a variety of plant specimens and they're learning about plant parts and kind of plant anatomy. We went to Pilchuck Tree Farm up in Arlington. We're doing some water quality testing in the middle. You can see on the bottom left, that is a sample of water that we pulled from there. It was very gross. And I actually, though, did accidentally pull up a fish. So I feel very bad for that fish. But our findings will hopefully encourage other people to help conserve this stream. And we also did a photo competition here. And on the upper right, a student is measuring the diameter of a tree. And we are doing a tree survey and learning a bit about forestry practices. These are their study plots. This background photo in the middle was just one wall of blackberry bushes. You couldn't see this fence in the foreground in certain areas. And over the 5 weeks, this group of 10 students removed all of that blackberry. You can see some of the massive roots from these huge plants on the bottom right next to this rake for scale. So they put in some serious sweat equity and cleared this whole space out. You can see this giant pile of blackberry on the left. That was only 1 day's work. So they had a pile like that almost every day for 5 weeks. And then they divided this area into a couple of study plots, and they worked together as a group to survey what was in there and then create a planting plan and a restoration plan that they handed off to another cohort of students in the fall. And here they are at another location, the pond beyond, more blackberry work on the right. In the middle, they're working with someone from the Department of Natural Resources, learning about native tree species. And on the left, they cleared out this area, and on these steps, we learned later about invasive bullfrogs and had a specimen to look at and almost lost it. So we almost re-released an invasive bullfrog on those very steps, but luckily these kids were nimble enough to grab it again. And finally, at Jennings Park, which is in Marysville, they spent a week stomping reed canary grass, which is this very invasive tall grass in these photos. The students hated it because it was very hot and monotonous, but that is a part of conservation work. So, part of this is showing them that you don't always like every single moment of the job, but it's a really important part of conservation. So it's important to chip in. And they learned a whole suite of cool skills. Here they're learning how to use a pesticide sprayer. There were no pesticides in this one, and it had never been used before, so there's no contamination issues. But pesticides and herbicides are part of the suite of tools that we use at the district to combat invasive species. So we wanted to just kind of show them what it's like to use these sprayers and what it means to use pesticide and herbicide in the right context. And we just filled it with water, and they got to water some plants. And then last but not least, we do want to educate the whole family. So we table and we bring educational activities to all sorts of contexts. Over the summer, we go to Kama Beach State Park, although we'll be at Camano Island State Park this year. And we bring educational activities and just engage the whole family and try to encourage them to treat every trip to the beach like an educational opportunity and a chance to take care of that marine habitat. In this photo, these students this was at Kama Beach, these siblings are measuring the turbidity of a sample that we grabbed from the sound from the water right by Kama Beach. And at different times we'll have, marine mammal pelts or other activities to just, again, foster that relationship between families and the environment. We do a lot of summer learning, and another big event that we table at is Orca Recovery Day, which is happening in Monroe this October. And that's a big focus on how everything that happens on land can affect the ocean, and that we want to be really careful with our behavior on land so that species like orca and salmon that live in the sound are not being impacted by our day-to-day lives. So you can see some siblings in this Orca Recovery Day photo on the bottom left with our plush orca, and they just had a great time. And it's just very fun connecting with families, because I think that the things they learn are more likely to be kind of maintained within that family culture when you talk to the whole family at once. So I really enjoy family tabling. And so that's everything we do. I have so many dreams for what I want us to do in the future. And so does Kira, so does our coordinator, Nathan. I would like to have more curriculum for middle and high school students rather than these kind of like summer or like intensive learning opportunities. I'd love to have like a week-long curriculum like we do for elementary students. I would eventually love to have an internship program or something where we can bring on college students that are really keen to get into conservation careers, and they could use an internship like a stepping stone, learn about what it's like to do these jobs on the ground. And we are also applying right now for some funding to do some urban agriculture curriculum to teach more students about gardening, to address food insecurity, and to kind of bring nature into the homes of urban residents where they can feel quite disconnected from the environment. Okay, thank you so much. That's everything that we do from preschool through high school, indoors, outdoors. I would love if you have any questions or thoughts or ideas for other dreams we could have going into the future. Kira and I are excited to hear anything.
I had some questions, some of them just in relation to the picture. You mentioned in the one picture where you were by the river in the park that I think his name was Nathan, had on a something tube, a trip tube. Had no idea what you were talking about, Alana. And when I thought, okay, I can see something sticking up out of his hat. What was that?
Yeah, so he had a little safari hat on. That's his like field trip attire to keep the students' eyes on him, which is hilarious. But he had in his hand a turbidity tube, which that was a poor educator moment that I didn't explain what that was. It's just a clear tube that has some measurements on the side. You pour water in and then you look down the tube and there's like a symbol at the bottom, and you keep pouring water until you can't see the symbol anymore. And then that gives you a measurement that tells you how turbid is that water or how many particulates are in there that make it cloudy. Because we want water that is very clear, because that's easier for fish and other creatures to breathe and to live in that water. We don't want murky water.
Okay, turbidity tube. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. I just didn't catch that. And I had to wonder too, as you were talking about some of these things, there's partnering with different groups. A lot of it sounded to me like if you partnered at all with the master gardeners, especially when you mentioned Jennings Park and some of these places I know that are maintained by the master gardeners. Do you find yourself creating other partnerships? I mean, we feel like we like to partner with you whenever we can.
Yeah, we do. For the YES program, when we were at Jennings Park, we did a tour of the Master Gardener demonstration garden up there. And we talked a lot about kind of the intersection between habitat and gardens, that gardens are not removed from, the greater environment. And we learned about native plants and kind of the human connection to plants. So that was really great. And master gardeners always have a table at our plant sale. And when we do events like that, we like to invite them because they know so much about native plants as well. And then some other people that we partner with pretty consistently are different WSU extension programs. They have tons of resources. Pacific Education Institute, who I mentioned, they kind of train educators on how to do conservation work, but they work throughout Washington. And they have some really interesting educational models that you might be interested to check out. And we partner with the county, with Snohomish County, Noxious Weeds. We try really hard to partner with anyone that wants to work with us, because I think it just is another avenue to share information and to reach new people and to just have a really solid network of environmental organizations in the county that are rooted here and really focus on doing good work here.
Do you have particular schools that you target? I mean, are you everywhere, or is there are rural schools more inclined, to get your attention, or how do you pick the schools that you do your programs, like Wheat Week?
Yeah, that's a really great question. There's a lot of behind the scenes trying to get funding to work in different places, because we offer all of our programs for free. And so some programs like Wheat Week, there's no geographic limiting factor. So Wheat Week we offer anywhere, and it's a really great way to just get to know students and teachers and administrators across the county. And then we have some Department of Ecology grants. where they're mostly riparian restoration, so restoring like streams and rivers. Those are more rural, but it means that we get to focus some efforts into those a little bit out of the way, sometimes rural communities where they don't have the same access to resources as students that live in more urban centers. And we also have contracts with a few cities throughout the county where we just get to pour a lot of love and resources into that particular city. But I am looking for funding so that we have flexibility and we can really emphasize working with like underserved urban communities, especially English language learners or people facing food insecurity. That's kind of like the next step of where we want to try to focus our work, because not every student has the same access to outdoor education or environmental education, but that doesn't, that's not a reflection of their ability to contribute to conservation. So we want to make sure that we're empowering every student, no matter where they are.
I was wondering how you dealt with the equity issue, because
Mhm.
it's important to make sure you're reaching out to all those kids
Yeah.
in various parts, and yeah, other questions here
Yeah, I
from
see one. Julie, do you partner with Adopt a Stream Foundation with their riparian planting parties? I haven't since I started about 2 years ago, but I know that I hear Adopt a Stream frequently, especially with our habitat restoration team. So there is an ongoing partnership there. And I think that's a place too where I can focus our efforts to do more planting specific field trips and activities with students, because they do really great work. And the department director of our habitat team used to work for Adopt. Oh no, that was Sound Salmon Solutions. But we have kind of our fingers in all these pies, and I think it's just finding the time to strengthen those relationships and see what their enthusiasm is for work with students.
Yeah, really, Adopt a Stream is definitely one to reach out to. I know that they have a planting out by Granite Falls going on this
Cool.
Saturday.
Awesome.
So
Amazing.
there,
Um,
Tom is big on, Murdoch is big on making sure everybody knows what a riparian zone is, because
Awesome.
that's one of the first questions he'll ask you if you happen to meet with him, so that we all get that basic education going forward. So,
Awesome.
yeah, he's been working on our watersheds for quite some time. And along with that, Sally's husband too, Bill, is another strong contributor in that direction. Yeah, other questions? Julie, thank you for that one. All right, okay.
Oh, sorry, I was just slow with that.
Valerie, go for it.
Yeah, I was just curious about, you said that you're working with grant funds this current year, and I was wondering the origin of those. And then also just more information about how you co-fund activities, and if you're looking for partners to do specific works, and how that, it's a very vague question, but
Yeah. I mean, funding is like the beast.
it's the meat of it all. Yeah.
Is always at your back. So right now, the funding that I am chasing after is, we look at foundation funding. So these might be good places I'm not sure if you all do need grant application sources, but the Horizons Foundation and the Rose Foundation are two foundations locally where they will support environmental education projects. So we go the foundation route. There's often a little bit less paperwork, so that's nice. And then we also get funding through Department of Ecology grants and USDA farm to school grants. And then right now, the urban agriculture that I would like to fund is through the National Resource Conservation Sciences. They have a grant, and then the National Association for Conservation Districts. So that's what I'm looking at right now. Some other funding sources are the Recreation and Conservation Office, RCO. They do outdoor education for all. I applied last year, so it's not at the forefront of my mind. But they have some great opportunities. So just looking for anything that will allow us to take students outside, and especially those underserved communities where they're not in cities that have the funds to contract us directly, or they're not they don't live like next to a stream where our habitat team is working and can fund our time. So trying to piece together a puzzle so we can offer things for free across the whole county.
Just a little more detail on that last piece. So you said where a habitat team might be working on a stream. What's an example of that?
Yeah, so they have some larger Department of Ecology grants that are really dedicated to riparian restoration. And they're working mostly in the Snohomish watershed and the Snohomish watershed. So we do a lot of work, like our educational work will be up in Sultan or Monroe, areas that are closer to the rivers, or up in Arlington. And that's fantastic because I love working with students out there. And then we can also usually take them to field trips to active restoration sites or to the river. But then once you get into kind of like the urban part of our county, which is in the Snohomish watershed, but there's not active like planting areas and like restoration areas once you're in like Mukilteo and Everett and Mount Lake Terrace. All those urban areas, it's just hard to find that Department of Ecology funding so far. So that's kind of where I see the need and where I'm trying to find other things so that we can work outside of these like restoration zones.
Okay. Cool. That made
Yeah.
me think of a lot of cities when developers take down trees, there's mitigation funds that have to be deposited with the city. And I know our cities had difficulty at times using those funds appropriately. And so they end up being used for things like tree removal and or tree pruning instead of tree planting, which of course there's a balance to all of these things, right? But it just makes me wonder, as many of us have watersheds that need some of this work, if there couldn't be a partnership between using those city mitigation funds to purchase whatever plantings are appropriate for that area, and then doing a school partnership project, because a lot of our schools are on properties that have significant greenbelt areas, and sometimes they're riparian, not very often, but
yeah, well, definitely if any of you hear of any things like that, I'm happy to connect you with like I do the education part, but in terms of like plantings and like maybe larger scale, more like restoration work or tree plantings, like other teams are well equipped to do that. And that makes me curious. I want to ask other teams if they're aware of things like that. And about those mitigation funds. The Rose Foundation, the grant that I applied to through them is Soundwater Stewards mitigation funds that they collect from people that are polluting into the Puget Sound. The foundation turns around and gives that out as grants for community-based conservation. So yeah, interested in that, in other areas as well. Thanks, Valerie. And Linda, I see your question. Do you have current high school curriculum on your webpage? Any place where ideas for new curriculum can be found? Yeah, so right now, our main high school programs are Envirothon and the YES program, and there is an Envirothon page on our website. We don't have a dedicated YES program page because we just piloted it and then we're not doing it this summer, so we're kind of holding off on really going wide with that until we feel a little bit more secure and we know it's going to continue. Feel pretty confident, but I would rather not get everyone excited until I know for sure. So that's the information we have on our website right now. The curriculum that is up is our elementary school lessons. We share the lesson plans and the PowerPoint so that even if we can't go into a classroom to implement this, a teacher could have enough information to implement this lesson on their own. And there's one lesson where there's permitted salmon pictures that we are not allowed to share. So that PowerPoint is not up there, but the other ones are available for download. Oh my gosh. And what does YES program stand for? Youth Engaged in Sustainable Systems. And that is a Pacific Education Institute initiative. They're kind of the main coordinators that bring together community partners like us that have the restoration skills, and then school districts, and help us create this really collaborative program. And that's the program for high school students. Is Envirothon always in the spring? Yes, our regional competition has been in March. We might move it to April next year, but it will be in the spring. And that's so that we have time to do a state competition before school gets out for summer. And that way students can then have time to prepare for the national competition. And it also gives us time in the fall semester to try to recruit teams and offer workshops and trainings and things so that they're ready to compete in the spring semester.
Can we get information on resources about joining teams? Like
Yeah,
that we
of
can
course.
share with our school district?
Yeah, I'll reply all to the invitation email that Joan CC'd me on, and I'll link to this year's competition, which it's happening on Tuesday, so registration is closed, but I will also send a link so you can join our youth education newsletter if you're interested, because that's where we also advertise for all these different programs and share kind of wrap up information about how it went. And I'll include just some other links too, to like our curriculum and just different spots on our website.
Well, and if you would want to share your PowerPoint, I can
Okay,
put that too with the group.
awesome.
We've got our master person here who she just is a genius at taking our recording and putting it on YouTube.
Oh, cool.
So you have been recorded, and for the people that didn't make it today, they have the opportunity to watch and hear all these wonderful ideas and programs and things that you are doing and participating and creating. And if anytime an idea is offered, I'll be happy to pass it on to you, Alana. But thank you for sharing these ideas with us.
Yeah, of
about how
course.
to involve kids and where to be. I want to thank you for coming. I want to thank you, Kira and Alana, for your work. I think it's so important, and it's exciting. It's exciting to learn about. It's exciting to hear about. And I hope this program will shine a little more light on it as we get it out there in our voter and to others. And definitely appreciate you being here. We're going to have our regular meeting now, but you don't have to hang around. I know you're busy. And we have a number of reports that I have here to share from other people. Thank goodness Steve showed up. He's here. He can give his own report. You don't have to hear it through Joan. And so I just can't thank you both enough. And thank you, Dr. Springer. I mean, it's just really impressive to know that you're lighting fires out there, and not literally, but figuratively in the minds and hearts of young people. And and Julie, you did make it. There you are. That's wonderful. So thank you for being here. And
Yeah. And thank you so much. I have really enjoyed, I worked with you all to do an Urban Street Tree kickoff day in Everett a year and a half ago, and that was great. And I just really appreciate all that you do for our community. It's really important as well. And I know we talked about Earth Day. Even if you feel like you don't know anything about the environment, which I don't think is true for this group, just taking young ones outside, spending time in nature, having them care about these spaces, that's the first step to get them to do anything else. So I think you don't need to feel like you're an expert to have a positive impact. It's just how I want to end.
oh, no.
Yeah, thank you so much. Kira and I are going to head out to
Yeah, no. Yeah.
keep working our jobs, but I really appreciate all of you, and I hope you have a great meeting, and I look forward to collaborating in the future.
Yes, and we'll look forward to having another conversation with you down the road, Alana. Thank you.
That sounds awesome. Thank you.